So good morning all together. My name is Michelangelo. I'm the global head for Group Smart Manufacturing at Merck, the German Merck, Darmstadt, in Darmstadt located at the headquarters. And that means that it includes the role of converging all of the needs in smart manufacturing industry 4.0 related topic, including supply chain, for three different business sectors that we have. One is about healthcare, the classical pharma business, the life science business, which including MillipoSigma, and the third one, which is about electronics, which is mainly about focusing on raw materials and any kind of other products for the semiconductor industry. Now, today I would like to give you an insight about our journey from manufacturing and the way we call it smart factoring. So it's actually replacing the word manu into smart. It doesn't mean that we're replacing people, though. It does mean that we are replacing manual, repetitive actions that maybe we replace to smart actions. So before we go into details, let me start with the first introduction to dialogues that I had among peers and in the past with other peers in the other industries. What is the current state of the industry if it comes to smart manufacturing or any digital transformation activity? And what you see on the screen here is kind of summarizing a bit more of those dialogues. What you see on the screen is having silos, and you may have heard about silos in the industry. The interesting thing about silos, though, is if you ask people whether they create silos, nobody would commit that they would do. So if nobody is creating a silo, how can you actually sense that there is a silo? So on the other end, what you also hear about a lot is about the fear towards AI, and you see even more happening now with ChatGPT and other technologies raising up. How is that transforming? What you also see, as a company at Merck, we are more than 350 years old. We're a company that have evolved with old technologies. A lot of acquisitions which actually merge into incompetitive technologies. What you also see is that there's a different understanding of what digital is. You may ask 5 different people and you get 10 different answers. What is digital? All of these different aspects are right. However, what is your vision? What is actually your excitement about digital and how should it help you? Well, then we're talking about big data. Big data is a buzzword, I think, because we're still lacking of accessing this data in a structured manner. And what you also see is that frozen information is still the case. Frozen information for me means you know you have the data, but it's a lot of work to get access to, which means manual work to clean it up, getting access rights, asking people who has actually the data available. And then you know those classics of still working with Excel files and different wordings and nomenclatures that you can't really use it in the way you want. So, and last but not least, let me ask you here to reflect about the person in the middle. What you see here is a person that is holding a book on the one hand and an electronic device on the left hand. So if you ask this person to read the content of the book on an electronic device, you may not get the same emotional response. So if it comes to digital transformation, it's more than just a technology transformation. You can give me the best technology, you can explain to me that you can read 500 books on your Kindle device. It doesn't motivate me though. It's an emotional response. It's emotions. So when you talk about change management, it's more than rational aspects. It's about getting people along and understanding the needs and the emotions around it. And so that's why more than 90% or maybe 80% of digital transformations fail, because we underestimate the digital transformation aspects are considered to be linked to people and their respective emotions. What you see as a big challenge in the pharma industry and the biotech industry is that we still working in this one-size-fits-all principle in many cases, which means also it takes up to 15 years to bring a drug to the market. We know these numbers. We know that also more than, I would say, 90%, 95% of all drugs starting in R&D just don't make it to the market. And if they do make it to the market, it costs us up to $3 billion for one single compound. These are tremendous numbers. And the reason behind that is not because people are sitting around and just drinking coffee. It's just that complex. And I want to allude just a bit, and this is just a tiny bit of the overall life cycle of process development for drugs. that you start with developing a manufacturing process in a very early stage, creating knowledge, understandings of each step, upstream, downstream, formulation, analytical development. There are so many data and insights that you generate, a lot of experiments, DOEs, whatsoever. All of these are actually made up to ultimately create a product. First under GLP, later on even more complex under GMP conditions. And with the whole life cycle, you can imagine that that creates a lot of complexity because all of these data, all of those parameters are somehow influencing each other in a way that actually you have to reflect about raw materials attributes, process parameters, the way you do the manufacturing. Is it a batch or continuous manufacturing process? Which technologies are you using? Which scale are you using? So all of this is actually influencing a lot the complexity of the product quality. And on top, you have different data formats, right? Starting with data time series data, you have all the different quality data, spectra data, images, and all of these different data sets ultimately need to be considered and visualized, understood to consider the next step of what are your experiments to shape the product. By the way, that complexity still exists in manufacturing and commercial manufacturing. Because also there, you have changing technologies, you have changing raw materials, everything that actually something influences the product quality and quantity. So let me double click now on the next level of complexity that we're facing right now. As we know, we're all living in the VUCA world. Unfortunately, this is again a buzzword. But what you actually mean with that is it's very volatile at the moment. The speed of changes is incredible. Again, same example, ChatGPT, look at how fast the technology evolves and how much more you can do today just with that technology. But if you look back in the last 10 years or 5 years, how fast the technology changes, I'm asking myself, how fast can we actually, as humans, adapt to those technologies, understanding how we use them and integrate them and use them at scale or under GMP regulations. The uncertainty is becoming more and more complex, the ambiguity, you don't have enough data to make decisions at the right time. And so all of this, and plus the pandemic and geopolitical conflicts that we are facing or have been facing in the past, all of that is creating a lot of uncertainty. So a company like Merck and any other are facing this complexity. And actually what the result of that is, you see that we have an increase in raw material cost. We have an inventory capacity management issue, right? So raising and increasing inventory levels is certainly not the answer. The logistics challenges, the cost of shipping any container is raising as well. Uncertainty as well over there, and the economic downturns that you also see. So if you think about those complexity, you're facing product challenges, manufacturing challenges, increasing costs, and what I'm not mentioning, the talent war that we're still facing. We're talking about digital and the new skill sets, about data scientists, data engineers, data architects, data stewards. There's so many different words around that and skills that are needed. And we are all reaching out to the same resources. So we see a lack. And how do we upskill and reskill? So a lot of challenges facing us. And what we don't want is to put that cost back to our customers. So we need to rethink the model. And what we see here as the key challenges in manufacturing is, of course, the ineffective of leveraging data, raw materials supply disruptions, and the bigger one, the speed of delivery. Sustainability is still becoming even more a topic for us, and the collaboration, which is still a big key challenge. Now, that ultimately led to a new word, a new buzzword raising up more in the industry, which is talking about business resilience or supply chain resilience. So I started to try to define what actually is business resilience or supply chain resilience. And supply chain resilience and agility is the ability to prepare for the unexpected, identify and adapt to disruptions, execute alternative solutions quickly, and maintain continuity of operations through recovery. That sounds like a beautiful world. But that is actually exactly what we're looking at. That's what we want to do. If we look at technologies, if we really want to use and leverage technologies, that's what the aim is. Because you've seen those challenges are still there. So how do we address them? How do we tackle them? And if you look at that picture here, you see that's manufacturing in the past. Well, to be honest, those are the pictures that actually are true also today if they would be in color. So there's not much happening in manufacturing in terms of changing massively the ways of working. However, what we see now is the next generation challenge is how do we get the complexity in the data sets and the insight that we need to be able to predict outcomes, even to prescribe outcomes. So when we sit together as an organization, we identify that we don't need to reinvent those smart manufacturing capabilities 3 times. We all have the same challenges. How do we come together as one Merck and actually come and define what actually smart manufacturing is to us? So we came up with a new definition, which is not new, but it's ours at least, defining what it is, and it's defined as the integration of advanced technologies, such as the industrial Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, automation, and big data analytics, with traditional manufacturing processes to create an interconnected, data-driven, and highly efficient production and supply chain ecosystem. And that enables a lot of those things that I'm going to double-click in a moment. The second thing that we realized, and that's what I was talking about, what is digital? We said, what is our vision if it comes to smart manufacturing? Where do we want to go? Like, what is it that we want to do? We created this visual here, which actually was a lot of conversation across all business sectors, leaders, operations, engineers. Everyone was talking about it. And what you see on the top of the screen is the first layer on the top is the smart manufacturing layer. Before going into this layer, you see that this smart manufacturing platform is enabled through 4 main pillars. It's about PAT and IoT, process science and technology, connected industrial equipment, so mainly the IT-OT convergence, and engineering and automation. And all of these enabling technologies, if you will, are based on foundations. The first one is quality and regulatory. Second one is cybersecurity, especially OT cybersecurity. The end-to-end data management, standards, and the most important one, people. Now, once this has been put in place and we know that this is our foundation and enabling technologies, you see why we're doing it. If you look at the screen, you see the big why. You see here our customers, whoever the customers are, that are pulling us in different directions. Quality, cost, and time, which is not new to us. And on top, we are adding now sustainability and service. Now, what I mentioned before is that all of this needs to be optimized in a way that we don't need to necessarily increase our inventory levels, the transportation cost, the process development, the production cost, the CDMO business that we are having, but also working with CDMOs. How do we do tech transfers? How do we do first-time rights? And while we're reducing the cost of our products, how do we give access immediately back to our customers when they order it? You know, today we know from an Amazon Prime Time, we order today, we want to have the product yesterday. So how can we actually predict who's ordering what, while all of this is actually massively changing? So all of our data are now mainly coming into a global central data platform ecosystem. We have organized it in a way that the whole Merck team has now organization are leveraging all of the data on a sample platform. And this data will help us to create those use cases, whether digital twins, holistic control towers, decision intelligence, the way we call it, and creating new business opportunities like new software or new database business models, while we are able to access new data, external data and models. Well, so the smart manufacturing levers that we have generated here for us are the process development, smart operations, smart engineering, smart quality, and smart supply chain. This is the focus area for smart manufacturing, and we know that the aims of smart manufacturing basically are the same that have been always been in manufacturing, which are lean-based, right? Six Sigma, nothing new, now leveraging new technologies to level up. So you see here, for example, the reduction of inventory levels or shorter lead times, the improved quality, the classics. But now, who has leveraged those technologies? And what are the benchmarks? And what you see here, some of those benchmarks, like time to market, leveraging digital twin technologies, helped the market also to reduce already the speed to market by 83%. Also, inventories, right? End-to-end supply chain management with visibility platform was able to reduce inventory levels by 25%. These are all benchmarks that is not a wish. It has been proven it's possible, and not only once. For those who are still critical, I fully understand. Those are incredibly high numbers. However, we wanted to prove it ourselves and wanted to dig deeper. How many are actually investing into this? Is this just the 1 or 2 companies doing it? What we've seen is actually a lot of companies now investing into smart manufacturing. And you see on the screen that it's leveling up in the last years. And 41% of all manufacturers have investing into smart manufacturing capabilities. Which answers the question, what happens if you don't do it? So I was talking to our CFO a while ago and saying, not only what we want to do, but actually what happens if we don't do it? And if you look around you, beside the fact that we are all constrained with every challenge that we mentioned, those are happening around us. So the investments also will show that a lot of companies will mature more. However, at the moment, 80% of the manufacturers are in maturity level 2-ish plus, maybe level 3. And what you see also that the return on investment are increasing exponentially with increasing maturity levels. So if you want to level up, there are a couple of things that you need to set in place, certain steps that you need to do. So I was very pleased to contribute to this paper from the World Economic Forum, where we defined what's the framework, what are the capabilities that you need to have in place to enable this transformation in manufacturing. And you see here technology enablers, you see applications, and you see organization enablers. So when I was talking about the transformation with a lot of folks, especially also with my IT colleagues and the business, usually you look at that transformation like that. You may have some brownfield question marks, like how do you level up existing plants? And then you have the greenfield approach, where you can look into the future with maybe a restricted budget. And there are some prerequisites that you need for certain levels, and you see here on the screen the prerequisites, enablements, and opportunities, and the different maturity levels, level 3, 4, and 5. And the typical aspects of prerequisites for each level. However, that's the classical way we've been doing it the last years, which has unfortunately stopped us to evolve in plants, old plants that have not the opportunity maybe to install an MES in place. Not in every plant, a return of investment will be made for having an MES or any other system. So how do you ensure, how can you level up even those companies, those manufacturing plants? And what you see here, the classical triangle or the pyramid of the Industry 3.0, having the different systems in place. Now, I'm not saying this is wrong, but it's not certainly the one that is most it's rigid, I would say, right? So it's very stark. So if you don't have this invested, you won't go further. What I see, though, and observe even more is the change towards the smart manufacturing hybrid architecture, with it's more about connectivity. So what does it actually mean, connectivity? That means, for me, that not always you need to have certain systems in place to level up and to increase productivity or to address any challenge in that manufacturing space. So that means also that you may jump from the network structure into the asset system management, and then later on going to the cloud. So there are millions of ways today to address the connectivity without having the rigid pyramid in place. So if you think about that, the next question is, so what do we do? What's the business question? What's the business problem that you're trying to solve? These are capabilities. All of these capabilities may help you with addressing one need, multiple needs. But where do you start? Well, that's how we came together as an organization, and we've asked ourselves, what's our priority? Very difficult question to answer. How much is your customer? Is your customer important? Is the time to market important? What about finances, employees, society? Very critical questions to be answered. And all plant managers and all operations heads need to be in this room to discuss those priorities. If it's not a priority, don't do it. If it's not a problem you're trying to solve, don't do it. If you can't make really much money with it, or in addressing sustainability goals, or any problem you're trying to solve with the customers in our back, don't do it. So what we are doing now more and more is to look at our own priorities, which includes always sustainability on top to rethinking supply chains, having a greater focus on seamless engineering and plug and produce automation and IT/OT convergence, digital twins and any other AI-driven use case to support new levels of resilience and flexibility, and increase workforce agility and amplify capabilities to enable resilience. And last but not least, to reflect regulatory requirements in AI-enabled capabilities, including qualification, validation of technologies, and algorithms used to be supporting those decisions. What we also realized then, once you go down very deep into operations, you may have operations excellence in the floor. And how do you connect now the KPIs and the problems that you have with smart manufacturing capability? That's how we created a smart compass. And that smart compass actually is, and this is one tree of those financial KPIs, that is connected to the different business levers or drivers that you may have, for example, reducing lead time. And what we're connecting here is now to say which use case category in smart manufacturing will help you with your respective business need. The next level deeper is, once I have identified the use case I want to work on, what's the benchmark? How much can I impact by, for example, introducing a control tower? And these are industry benchmarks. Those industry benchmarks are right and wrong at the same time. That's not the point. The point is to get a compass, to get a dialogue, to understand how to link that to the KPIs of my operations. And next level deeper, to standardize the way we do business cases. And if you look at the control tower, there are different use cases, if you will, and those different use cases and business cases will create a different impact. And so that's the way we have been doing it for all smart manufacturing capabilities, in creating this compass and helping organizations to have a right structured dialogue and to avoid reinventing those wheels. If we have implemented already a certain system, a capability somewhere in electronics, let's not redo it. Let's do it. Let's leverage the external knowledge and scaling it across, and more thinking about standards rather than thinking about who has invented which capability. And one of those capabilities I want to, or a couple of, to give you some tangible examples, is a digital twin. We have been working on digital twins already quite a while. And again, another buzzword. So when we realized about talking about digital twins, we thought, let's demystify it. What is the digital twin? So this is an industry definition, an academia definition. And what you see is the full scope of a digital twin includes, besides having data in place, having model, having physical aspects, the virtualization, the human-machine interface, the connection and services. And there are different versions of them, right? If you look at the virtualization of an HMI weight digital shadow or a 3D plant, that's a digital twin. It's not the most smartest of the worlds, but it is a digital twin. The next one that you also may see recognized as a digital twin is data mining. But you don't reflect all of the aspects of the digital twin that I've defined before. Conventional automation may also be considered as a digital twin. And last but not least, the full digital twin. The full digital twin is a lights-off cognitive manufacturing, which includes 6 out of 6 of those capabilities. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Who's using almost daily, if not daily, maybe once a week, a digital twin? Any examples of the digital twins you're using in your private life? Exactly. Google Maps. Google Maps is one of those digital twins. It's a virtualization of your real environment, getting your real-time data, getting sensors, realizing them. You have models, is predicting when you are arriving to a certain goal, address, and then it's also prescribing to you what you should do in case of any traffic. So if you think about that, a digital twin is not new to us, but it may be you in the framework of manufacturing. So what we did is we started to create those digital twins And one of these are about focusing on a biomanufacturing process in a bioreactor. And that is actually then mimicking and predicting the outcome of a monoclonal antibody process. And you see, it's the encapsulation of knowledge. What I mean with that is not only having mechanistic models from the metabolism of a cell, of a mammalian cell, but also having computational fluid dynamics included, and the other data sets from us, and the quality data from us. And we started to include them and to build hybrid models and database models. Those models that you may not be able to create yourself or based on mechanistic models only. So that the best model is actually used while you're building your digital twins. That is not only a dream, it already shows results. It shows you the prediction of what's the outcome if I change raw materials, if I change parameters in my manufacturing. That is now speeding up the time in process development. Our ambition is to reduce it by 50%. We'll already be able to reduce not 50, but getting to 20, 30%. And so that's a lot of impact. It's faster, it has a sustainability impact, it has cost drivers, everything that actually helps us to transform the way we work in process development. And it also helps us to transfer that knowledge to commercial manufacturing, to any other CDMO. One of the next technologies that we're also working on is the MTP technology. So the modular type packaging. That gives us flexibility also in electronics, but also leverage in life science and healthcare, and about the plug and produce. And it's how we plug in equipment, any kind of equipment in a technical backbone, and be flexible and predicting to digital twins which equipment, which asset is available where for which kind of process. So we are way faster in introducing those technologies now in collaboration here, for example, also with Siemens. And last but not least, I would like to show you here another capability that we introduced by leveraging an IoT sensors, or a couple of IoT sensors and an AI model to be able to reduce massively the energy consumption in manufacturing plants. So that has already achieved 18% energy reduction in manufacturing plants, and it's not a one-time thing. We have been able to scale it across the manufacturing sites. We've been able to even scale it across the different sectors, healthcare, life science, and now also electronics been interested to scale this capability and being as part of our portfolio for in the future reducing all of those energy consumptions. And more to go, this capability is actually built in a way that we could also address water and any kind of other material that we are wasting, and we could reduce massively. And how can we build supply chain resilience and agility? We talked about that earlier on. And we started with transparency first, an end-to-end transparency. And as I said, ERP data, different data sets, quality of these data sets. We're moving to S4HANA, and from S4HANA, we're getting access to different architectures and siloed data sets from CRM systems or any transportation management systems, and started to connect those data sets and contextualize them in a way that gives you the right data model to give the transparency, dashboarding first, but then it gives you also the possibility to start simulating different scenarios, which we call decision intelligence. It's not about the machine making the decisions, but it's helping us as recommendation engines to identify what's the right inventory level. And by the way, inventory level is not going down only, it may also go up, depending on the situation. What's the right target? Considering the holistic data internally and external data. Do you see any constraints coming up? Do you see any geopolitical situation rising up? How does it affect my different models so that we as humans are able to address this complexity? And that is the life cycle of our supply chain activities. You see here from internal and external collaborations. And in some cases, we leave it as it is because we feel at the moment that's not the highest priority. And so you see from the supplier risk, logistics, production breakdowns or external risks, quality and manufacturing intelligence, capacity management, inventory management, distribution, fleet management, and track and trace, and demand uncertainty. That is the focus, for example, starting now in electronics, and we'll scale now this further across the different sectors. With that, I hope I gave you some insights about how we approach, where we started, what our maturity levels were and are, and how we're approaching this to level up without considering the constraints and the uncertainty we see, leveraging technologies, and especially how we start to focus even more about upskilling, reskilling, and the change management aspect of transforming from the way we have been working to the new ways of working in smart factoring. With that, thank you very much. I'm happy to take your questions.